Hello, everyone. Thyroid disorders and Ayurveda is the topic for this session with Vaidya Manoj Jagtap. Vaidya Manoj is an associate professor of Ayurveda and a Panchkarma expert. He is also an author and an Ayurveda research and has published number of articles in all kind of research publications. I am Amita from Nourish Doc, a global platform for natural and holistic therapies. I am honored to present all of you to Vaidya Manoj Jagtap, who's joining us live from India. Namaste, Manoj. Vaidya Manoj. Okay, welcome and yes, welcome to the session. Thank you.
So with your permission, may I begin?
Yes, please start.
Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. So firstly, I will begin my lecture with a salutation to Lord Dhanvantari. Next. So this slide is kind of dream for me because till now date, no from the Ayurveda faculty has got the Nobel Prize. But in the recent few years, if we see the Nobel Prize winners or the things for Nobel Prize they have got, these are the some basic principles from the Ayurveda. For an example, Nobel Prize for autophagy was given in 2016. All we know the autophagy is the basic phenomena of human body cell which engulfs the harmful material itself, and the fasting stimulates the autophagy. So fasting is very good for body which stimulates the autophagy. So this research has won the Nobel Prize. But in Ayurveda, many thousand years back, it is stated that Langhan, which is the kind of fasting, it stimulates, all we have seen that it stimulates the autophagy. Langhan is very good for the health. So this is the one of the example. In the next slide, we will see another example. In 2017, the Nobel Prize was won for the discovery of circadian rhythms. All we know in our body, according to the day and night, some cyclic changes are there. The same principle is described in Ayurveda. It is stated that Vayo Ahoratri Bhuktanam Te Anta Madhyadika Kramat. It means in our body, according to the daytime or the night time or according to the age, or we are the stage of we are having food, there is cyclic changes in the vat or pitta or kapha. So these cyclic changes are called as the circadian rhythms, and it won the Nobel Prize. So it's my dream in recent maybe in next few years one of the from Ayurveda faculty will get the Nobel Prize. So we will go.
That's amazing that same principles, I mean, what you demonstrated is the similar principles that were written 5,000 years back. Now the scientists have put it in a structured format of research to prove the same efficacy that which was done so many years back.
So what is the need of today's topic? Because so many ask, is there any solution for the, say, hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism in Ayurveda? Is there any mention of such kind of thyroid disorders in Ayurveda? Because in recent few years, we have diagnosed the such cases of maybe hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. But Ayurveda is written in 5,000 years ago. So how to handle such kind of cases, or how to then think about such cases according to Ayurveda? Nowadays, all we know in the all over the America, Europe, and the Western countries, Ayurveda is emerging as an alternate system to the current system of treatment. And all we know that many of the conditions or the diseases are very new. The world is going through COVID-19 pandemic right now. So this coronavirus is very new to us. So in a such scenario, the question obviously comes, does Ayurveda has a solution for it, for the COVID-19 scenario or for such recent discovery, some new diseases. For an example, HIV was introduced in 1980. First case was diagnosed in the late 80s. So in such conditions, when there is very new diseases, can we treat it with Ayurveda? How to think about it from the Ayurveda perspective? That will be our today's topic. So many patients came to us with the modern diagnosis and the treatment. This is the very famous quote, all we know what's in the name, quoted by the William Shakespeare, that which we call a rose by another name, it would smell as a sweet. So there is no significance of name stated by the William Shakespeare. The same quote for the disease, we will see in the next slide. Charkacharya has stated that Vikaranam akushulo na jivyat kadachanaha na hi sarva vikaranam namato asti dhruvasthiti. It means one should not be ashamed of one's inability to name a disease. Since all disorders cannot be given a standard name, it is not possible to each and every disease we should give a particular name, or that name is mentioned in the Ayurveda. But being an Ayurveda person, I can diagnose or I can find out the pathogenesis and the location and the etiological factors about that disease, and I can treat accordingly. So hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, or such conditions, they are not exactly stated in Ayurveda, but we can think according to Ayurveda and treat accordingly. That is the aim. Next. So whenever we have to treat such new diseases or such conditions from the Ayurveda perspective, the main things we have to consider: first, dosha dominance. There are three dosha: Vat, Pitta and Kapha in our body. So in such disease condition, either it is due to increased Vat or due to Pitta or Kapha, or maybe sometimes two of the three or all of the three are involved. So accordingly, we have to diagnose which dosha is dominant in this condition. There are 7 dhatu in body: Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Medha, Asti, Majja and Shukra, and 3 mal, that is the Mutra, Purusha and Swed, that is the urine, fecal material and the sweat, which are the excretory products. So in these diseases, the signs and symptoms are involved with the some dhatu and mala. We have to identify them. We have to know which dhatu is involved. Srotas is the concept of Ayurveda, similar to the concept of modern concept of systems. So we say respiratory system, digestive system, endocrine system. Such similar systems are called srotas by the Ayurveda. So in a disease condition, which srotas is involved, which organs are involved, that we have to find out and we have to treat accordingly. These are the some basic principles. According to them, any Ayurveda practitioner will know the disease, will diagnose the disease and treat accordingly. How? We will see. So this is the some slides regarding the thyroid anatomy. Basically, I am a teacher, as introduced. I am a researcher and I am a teacher. I teach anatomy. So thyroid gland, all we know, is an endocrine gland. The name comes itself from the Greek word thyroidis, that is the shield shape. The shape of the thyroid is like ancient shield like. So it is given the name of thyroid. Next. Thyroid gland is brownish red in color. All we know, it is situated in the lower part of the neck, anteriorly in the lower part of the neck, from the 5th cervical vertebra to the 1st thoracic vertebra. It is usually butterfly shape, but sometimes it has an extra pyramidal lobe. Usually it contains 2 lobes, right lobe and left lobe, attached by a bridge-like connection called the isthmus. But as seen in the figure, sometimes an extra pyramidal lobe is seen. It weighs usually 15 to 20 gram. Right lobe is sometimes larger than the left lobe. And most importantly, on the posterior aspect of the thyroid gland, 4 parathyroid glands are present, two superiorly, two inferiorly. So on the right side, two parathyroid gland, and on the left aspect, two parathyroid glands. In total, four parathyroid glands are present. They are adherent or attached to the thyroid gland itself. It's a very important point. Thyroid gland is highly vascular gland. It is supplied by the branches of the carotid artery, mainly by the superior and inferior thyroid arteries, and it is drained by the superior, middle, and inferior thyroid veins, and it has a very good lymphatic drainage also. Histologically, main thyroid gland contains a spherical structure or called as a follicle. Follicles are the basic functional unit, and they contains the follicular cells, parafollicular cells, also known as the C cells, and the inside material called as the colloids. These follicular cells and the parafollicular cells, they secrete the hormones. Two important hormones. First one is the T4 or thyroxine, also known as tetraiodothyronine, and another hormone is the T3 or the triiodothyronine. So depending on that, the number of iodine attached, molecules attached, tetra or tri, it is called as T3 and T4. These two hormones, they have tremendous, very significant effect on our metabolism, on our growth, and each and every system, reproductive system, cardiovascular system, each and every system has, these hormones have a great role. Also, from the parafollicular cells, C cells, there is a specific hormone called as the calcitonin, which mainly balances the calcium metabolism and homeostasis of the body. So these thyroid hormones, they work all over the body. So in the sign and symptoms of the either hypothyroidism or the hypothyroidism, we see the multisystemic involvement. The signs and symptoms are from the various systems, but main reason is that due to involvement of thyroid hormones. So this is the basic control mechanism. Hypothalamus secretes the TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone, which goes to the pituitary gland and stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete the TSH. We all know TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone reaches the thyroid gland and activates thyroid gland, and then this activated thyroid gland produces the T3 and T4 hormones. When levels of the T3 and T4 are high in the body or in the blood, there is a negative feedback system. So this suppresses the secretion of the TSH and the secretion of the TRH. Whenever the secretions of the T3 and T4, they are less, against the TRH and TSH are activated and the T3, T4 production is high. So this is the cyclic control mechanism from the hypothalamus to the pituitary and from pituitary to the thyroid. This is very important. Any abnormality in the thyroid gland as well as from the pituitary gland or the hypothalamus can give rise to the hypothyroidism or hypothyroidism. So this is called primary, secondary, and tertiary. Related to thyroid gland itself, it is the primary. Related to pituitary gland problems, it is secondary. And when the involvement of hypothalamus is there, it is tertiary. So this control mechanism is very important. Either there may be a problem in hypothalamus or pituitary or thyroid gland itself. In the treatment part, we have to take a note of this and treat accordingly. So these are the basic some symptoms which are seen in the case of hypothyroidism. In the thyroid disorders, all we know that hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism, these are the two different conditions. Hypothyroidism is very common, hyperthyroidism is comparatively rare. But in these two conditions, what are the symptoms and why, how we should interpret with Ayurveda, that is seen. So for example, when there is a fatigue, it is related to the increased cough in our body and vitiated Rakta Dhatu. Rakta Dhatu, what we call nowadays blood, is somewhat like that. according to Ayurveda, the Rakta Dhatu is a little bit different from the blood, but we can consider blood as a Rakta Dhatu. So fatigue is related to vitiated Rakta Dhatu, that is the blood, and increased cough. The other symptoms like poor memory and concentration is due to the increased Vat, or there is a weight gain that is due to the increased cough. Dry coarse skin is due to again vitiated Rakta Dhatu, and Vata increased Vata gives the discoloration and the coarseness, roughness of the skin. Myxedema is again due to increased Vata or Kapha. So this way we can label it or chart it down all the symptoms of the hypothyroidism and can interpret with the Ayurvedic interpretation, and in the end we can say that there is a significant involvement of Kapha dosh and Vata dosh along with the Rakta Dhatu. Vitiated Rakta Dhatu and Kapha and increased Vata dosh have the major role in the hypothyroidism. Next slide, please. So here, according to Ayurveda, it is called as the Samprapti, or that is the basic pathophysiology. It's a kind of flow chart how that disease is produced. So mainly due to the etiological factors, due to the some dietary factors in the body, there is increase in the Vata and Kapha dosh. There is an increase in the Vata and Kapha dosh, and mainly here the stress. All the cases of thyroid patients I have seen, and there are researches that due to stress there is imbalance of hypothalamo pituitary axis and pituitary to thyroid axis. So there is an imbalance between this axis which creates the thyroid disorders. So due to the stress, according to Ayurveda, Chintanam Ati Chintanat, Dushyanti Rasavahini. So according to the Ayurveda, stress induces the Rasa Dhatu Dushti, that is the vitiation of first Dhatu, Rasa Dhatu, which ultimately lands up into the Rakta Dhatu, and the combination of the vitiated Rakta Dhatu along with the Kapha and Vata dosh produces the hypothyroidism. This is the Samprapti or the chain of the disease formation. As a part of treatment, we have to break this chain, then we are succeeded. So this is the Samprapti of the hypothyroidism. Say, this is the exact opposite what we have seen in the hypothyroidism. This is all we know. Whenever TSH is increased, it is hypothyroidism, and when TSH is below the range, it is called as hyperthyroidism. So here the symptoms are mainly weight loss. Weight gain was there in hypothyroidism. Here weight loss is there. It is due to either increased Vata or increased Pitta dosh. Tachycardia is seen, which is again due to increased Vata and Pitta. Increased appetite is there due to increased Pitta. Sweating is seen, that is due to increased Pitta. Increased to the sensitivity of heat, again due to Pitta. In the female patients, we see the changes in the menstrual patterns, that is due to increased Vata or Pitta mainly. Changes are seen in the bowel patterns, especially more frequent bowel movements are seen. So this is due to involvement of Vata and Pitta dosh. Patient complains that I couldn't sleep or the sleep is less now. So that is due to increased Vata or Pitta. Fatigue is seen, that is increased Vata. Fine and brittle hair due to increased Vata and vitiated Rakta. Nervousness, anxiety, irritability is seen, that is again due to increased Vata and Pitta. So in a nutshell, it is due to increased Pitta and vitiated Rakta Dhatu. Although there is a significant role of Vata, but the principle of Ayurveda is there. All the movements of Pitta, Kapha or Rasa, Rakta, all the Sapta Dhatu or Trimala, that's the excretory material, is due to Vata. Vata is the only reason, or it is kind of vehicle. So in this condition, mainly the Pitta is increased and along with the Rakta Dhatu Dushti, or that is the vitiated Rakta Dhatu, it gives the hypothyroidism. In the next slide, here is the Samprapti of hyperthyroidism. This is the different scenario. Now, here the dosh increase is the Pitta dosh, and again due to the stress, there is the involvement of Rasa Dhatu and Rakta Dhatu, which gives the, along with the increased Pitta and Rakta Dhatu, it gives the hyperthyroidism. So these are the two different pathophysiologies of two different conditions, hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Accordingly, we have to treat. In the cases of hypothyroidism, we have to think of kapha and vata, and in the cases of hyperthyroidism, we have to think of the pitta. So these are the main treatment principles. As I said earlier, due to increased kapha and vata, we have to pacify them. We have to bring them to the balanced stage in the cases of hypothyroidism. And for hyperthyroidism, we have to pacify the pitta. We have to lower down the pitta in the cases of hyperthyroidism. The medicines or the drugs are used mainly working on the Rasa Dhatu and Rakta Dhatu. There is a significant role of various Panchakarma. Vaman is mainly indicated in the cases of hypothyroidism because Vaman is the best treatment for Kapha dosh. It removes the excessive amount of Kapha dosh from our body. So it is indicated in the hypothyroidism. Virechan is the ultimate treatment for the Pitta. So in the cases of hyperthyroidism, Virechan is indicated. Previously, we have seen that there is an imbalance between the hypothalamo-pituitary axis or pituitary thyroid axis. That is due to the stress. So for the stress management, two best panchakarma are there. Nasya. Nasya means the nasal application of various medicines through the nose, and Shirodhara. These two panchakarma relieves the stress, and they kind of corrects the hypothalamo-pituitarian axis or the pituitarian thyroid axis. So it corrects the basically the stress factor and that axis, and hence the results are seen. So these are the important principles behind the treatment. According to the condition, we have to either pacify the dosh increase, that is the kapha or vat in hypothyroidism, and in hyperthyroidism, we have to pacify the pitta. These are the basic principles. So now I will present you the two cases of hypothyroidism. Since hyperthyroidism is very rare, so many cases of hypothyroidism I have seen and treated. The few of them I am presenting here with. This is the first case. She is a female, 46 years female. Basically, she is a school teacher and working in a morning time. She has to rise up early in the morning, go to the school. Nowadays, due to Corona, everything is online, but previously offline teaching was more. So this was a previous case. So she has to wake up early in the morning, go to the school, take so many classes in a day, in the afternoon come to the home and do the household work. She mainly came for the pain in the throat and some dry cough. These were the main complaints. And she also stated that since 2-3 months, I am observing some edema and weight gain is there. So irrespective of this complaint of throat pain and the dry cough, I advise to go for a thyroid test. So we analyzed for the T3, T4 and TSH pathologically, and we found out that TSH was very high. Normally, TSH is up to 4.5 or sometimes in some laboratory conditions up to 5 is okay. But here the TSH was very much higher, 11.67. So we started for the treatment. But before starting the treatment, there is a routine. We take a detailed history from the patient. At what time patient gets up, what are his dietary habits, what he drinks, each and everything is taken noted, and then accordingly which are the factors, causative factors for that particular disease, these are ruled out, and we ask the patient to stop that. So in this case, for that particular female, since she had to go to the school early in the morning, she has to wake up early in the morning. So whenever she reaches home, after that in the daytime, she was used to sleep. To complete that incomplete sleep from the night, she was used to sleep at the daytime. So according to Ayurveda, daytime sleeping, it increases mainly vata. It's not good. So this was the first factor. Secondly, she used to have so many things, especially curd and the fish. Now in Indian climate, I'm talking about the India now. In the India, the diet like curd or fish, they have the some significant properties, blockages properties in our body called as abhishandi according to Ayurveda. So they are contraindicated. Excessive amount of curd and fish is contraindicated in Ayurveda. Again, this is due to climatic condition of Ayurveda, of India. It's not like that all over the Europe or the America, each and everything they are contraindicated. According to Indian climates, its properties are like there that it should be consumed with some rules according to the season, according to the time. So these rules were not followed by that patient. So that was another factor. She used to have so many salt in her diet. So sour and salty diet was excessive in amount. These kind of what we call amla and lavana rasa in Ayurveda. Amla means sour and lavana means this salty. These vitiates rakta dhatu mainly, which impurifies the blood. So that was again contraindicated. We asked patient to have the normal diet to stop that excessive amount of salt and the sour from her diet. And mainly at the bedtime, she was used to drink water or sometimes milk. According to Ayurveda, if we consume any kind of liquid just going to the bed, before just going to the bed, it causes any kind of disease in the head, neck, face region. We call it as Urdhva Chaturgata Roga in Ayurveda. So drinking any kind of liquid, especially after dinner time, uh, can cause the disease of thyroid gland, cervical problems, chronic sinusitis, headache. So many conditions can originate from this particular habit described as a nishapan in Ayurveda. So all these causative factors were taken in account, explained to the patient, and was asked to stop that. So in the next slide, the medicines I used was mainly Arogyavardhini, Raktapachak Yog, Kanchanar Gugul, Chandra Prabhavati, Lax, Venka. These are the mostly herbal combination in a tablet forms or some herbo-mineral combinations like Arogyavardhini or say Chandra Prabhavati. Remaining are the all the herbal combinations in a tablet form. Mostly they are Shastrokta products. They are stated in our Ayurveda Samhita. These products were used according to the condition of a patient, and over the period of a time, say 4 to 5 months, post treatment when we did, the TSH was reduced within the normal limit. It was then 4.49. So we succeeded to reduce TSH from 11 to 4 to bring down to the within normal limit in a few months time with this treatment. And after this, continuous monitoring is there. She's doing TSH levels each and every 6 months or once in a year. Till now, the TSH is within normal range, and she is not taking any medicine like Thironorm for that particular problem. So this is one of kind of result with Ayurveda we can achieve. We can avoid taking Thironorm, because whenever patients takes Thironorm, the kind of thyroid gland becomes more inactive, because thyroid hormones are ready made available to the body. Thyroid gland does not have to produce T3 and T4 hormones. So it becomes inactive over the period of the time. We have seen so many cases that over the period of the time, the dose of Theranom gets increased. So to avoid that, Ayurvedic medicines are more hopeful. They stimulate the thyroid gland. Especially, I will talk about the Kanchanar Guggul. One of the main ingredient is the Kanchanar. It is a herb from Ayurveda, and multiple researchers have shown that Kanchanar has the significant role on the TSH. It works on the thyroid gland very beautifully. So such kind of medicine stimulates the thyroid gland. So the T3 T4 production is more, and TSH brings down, or TSH comes down significantly. That's the beauty of Ayurveda. Next case.
So it's very interesting case. I just want to ask one question. Did you use any Panchakarma therapy? You mentioned earlier the Panchakarma therapy of Vamana and Virechana. In this case, did you use that?
No, ma'am, because of some patient was not staying in the same city. She was traveling a lot to reach to me, and some other conditions were not indicated. And this is a very short duration of the time. Within 4 or 5 months, we have completely treated this patient. So no Panchakarma was used in this condition, but some other cases we have used Panchakarma successfully, but not in this case.
Okay.
Statistically, it is seen that females are more prone to the hypothyroidism. 3:1 in a ratio, but this is again male patient, 68 years old, retired from the railway services. He was pre-diagnosed case. He had hypothyroidism since last 3 years when he reached to me for the treatment. He was already taking of Theranom tablets, but his TSH levels were always above the normal range. Irrespective of taking Theranom, never TSH was within the range, and that's why he wanted Ayurveda treatment. The other complaints were like constipation and pedal edema. Before starting the treatment, when we did the investigations, again the TSH was very high, that was 7.83 with the treatment of Theranom. So the first thing I did was reducing dose of Theranom. I reduced the dose of Theranom and started Ayurveda treatment. But just like the previous case, the main thing is causative factors. We have to identify, we have to diagnose that causative factors, we have to rule out, we have to ask the patient that you should stop. Then this chain or the pathophysiology breaks and there is a significant result. So in this patient, the patient was belonging from the South India. So they are more used to consume curd. So he was having more amount of curd in his diet. He was having the habit of drinking a lot amount of water, nearly 1 liter of water at the morning time. Just after the brushing his teeth, he used to drink 1 liter of water. That is one of the factor called as Ushapan according to Ayurveda. And same explained earlier, another habit, drinking fluid or the water at the bedtime called as Nishapan. So these were main factors which caused this particular disease. So we asked the patient to stop this. And again, some medicines are the same, like Arogyavardhini, Raktapachak Yog, Gokshuradi Guggul, Triphala Guggul, Gomutra Harti. According to the condition of the patient, the signs, symptoms of the patient, there are some changes accordingly. We use these medicines. And again, after the few months, the TSH was very normal, 2.98 only. And again, in this case, we didn't have to use any kind of Panchakarma in this case. So without doing any Panchakarma, these are the two cases. I had beautiful results. And after this TSH level, his Theranom tablet was completely stopped. And till that, he is not taking any thyroid medicine and his TSH is under control. So basically, it's a main role of Ayurveda treatment that Ayurveda treatment stimulates the thyroid gland to produce its normal T3, T4, and calcitonin hormones. Whenever we give Thyronorm, it becomes kind of inactive, and T3, T4 production is less. So there is a dependency on the of the thyroid gland from the outside. So to stop that, to any patient does not want that I should take medicine for a long time or say permanently. To stop that, Ayurveda treatment works beautifully, which stimulates the thyroid gland and T3, T4 production is more. That's a very important thing. So these are the small two clinical cases I have presented here. If there are any queries, you are welcome. And mainly, this is kind of take-home message that what we should tell to the patient, or the patient those are having thyroid problems, they should avoid these some things, likely excessive amount of curd and fish. As I said earlier, these are kind of abhishandi. These produce blockages in our body. These vitiate mainly kapha dosh in our body. So we should reduce the amount. Excessive amount of sour and salty food, they vitiate the Rakta dosha, so it should be avoided. The excessive amount of sweets and the cold items, they vitiate mainly Vata and the Kapha dosha, so they should be avoided. Excessive amount of butter and cheese. Again, now in a Western culture, in Europe, America, the amount of butter and cheese consumed is very large in comparison to the India. But it is according to the what we call the Agni, or the digestive power. The digestive power of a Western person or American and that to Indian is very different. And so that's why for an Indian person to consume more amount of butter or cheese is not good. So he should avoid that, and drinking, especially drinking water or the fluids, milk, tea, coffee, something like that, just going to the bed, before going to the bed, is always harmful. So if patients avoid these things, definitely they will improve very fastly and they have good results. So these are the kind of take home messages. And in the end, I will like to thank the team of Nourish Doc for giving this opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, we are open for questions. It's an excellent presentation, very to the point, making us understand the basics and then going into what we can do. So we are open for questions. You are welcome to put it in the chat window. So one of the questions I just wanted to start some of the questions is, most of the presentation we've seen, they also talk about yoga. Ayurveda and yoga go hand in hand. In these thyroid cases, do you also recommend some yoga, breath work or some yoga asanas or anything to keep the mind body in control? Because you mentioned stress as one of the main ingredients, right, and contributing to the disorder.
Definitely. It's a very good question. And as I said earlier, stress is a very important factor. And some things from the yoga like pranayam, that is the breath control, or some other things, they help in the reduction of the stress. And some specific mudras especially stimulate the thyroid gland. So combination of this pranayam and mudras can help, or it increases this efficacy of our Ayurvedic treatment. But I'm not very much expert from the yoga side.
Sure.
So I have not advice for them, but some other practitioners or the experts from yoga, they have the practice of using these methods.
Okay. So on the Ayurvedic herbs, is there any herbs that we should take as a prevention, like normal person for Google? You mentioned about the Google earlier. So you think, is it safe for people to take any of the herbs just to maintain the balance of the thyroid gland, or that's not necessary?
Actually, it's not necessary, but if there is a tendency, or in the cases of hypothyroidism, Kanchanar Gugul is one of the best medicine. It's a combination of Gugul along with the Kanchanar and some other medicines are there. So Kanchanar is very effective for the thyroid disorders, but it is contraindicated in hyperthyroidism.
Yeah.
So in hypothyroidism, we can definitely use the Kanchanar Gugulu, or so many herbs are there. Main first thing is that we have to identify the root cause. Either it is due to the stress or it is due to increased kapha or what accordingly. For preventive aspect, those things that you should avoid in the last slide was there. If a normal person avoids that, then he can stay away from the thyroid disorders. Nothing to be taken as a medicine.
I see. So just the last slide when you talked about the taking care of the contraindicated foods and okay, and sour and salty, you talked about all those.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and thyroid, why is it more prevalent in women? You mentioned that also. What is the reason? Why is it?
We cannot say there is a particular reason, but it's this statistical finding that all over the world, the female patients of thyroid are more. Maybe it's that females are more prone to the stress due to the so many say household work, families, maybe job or some other things. So, and at least in India, we have seen that females have tendency to have that extra amount of salt or sour into their diet, like pickles or some of the traditional food from India. They are more commonly seen into the females. So it vitiates the rakta dosh, and along with stress. Again, all we know in the pregnancy, the thyroid hormones change in the first trimester, second trimester, the normal thyroid levels are very much higher. So maybe because of that, in females, it's very common thyroid problem.
So any questions, please? I'm just trying to ask questions for our viewers, you know. So you one more question I have, and you're welcome to put the questions in the chat window. So the other thing you mentioned is the Vamana and Virechana, right? So one therapy is particularly good for the hyper, the other one so hypo. Can you expand on it a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. Vaman and Virechana are the two important procedures in Ayurveda. The pre-procedure stage is common for them. That particular person, for either for Vaman or Virechan, that person has to consume medicated ghee. Ghee for a, say, in an increasing order, 30 ml, 60 ml, 90 ml for a period of 5 to 7 days. And after that, in the Vamana, some medicines are given which induced vomiting. So through the vomiting, the kapha and pitta dosh, they are thrown out. And in Virechana, it's like purgation. So through the loose motions, the pitta is thrown out. So it is the same for Vaman and Virechan. Pre-procedure, the intake of medicated ghee is very common, but according to Vaman or Virechan, the medicines differ and their mode of action again differs. Vaman is more helpful in hypothyroidism for kapha mainly, not only for hypothyroidism, but in the case of respiratory disorders, kapha problems, Vaman is very excellent. And for GI tract digestive problems like IBS or some other things, Pitta, for pacification of Pitta, Virechan is very helpful.
Got it. It's basically detoxification, right? What we are calling nowadays, you know, detoxify yourself, cleanse yourself, 3-day juice, all those things. So, I mean, it's a same concept, but in a very methodical way.
Right?
Scientific way. Yeah. Okay. Any questions, any comments before we wrap up? I think, you know, I loved the way you explained it in a very simple way of what causes it and then give us the solution and the prevention. I think, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate that. And any questions people have, you know how to get hold of us. And if you like the sessions, please help us spread the word. And we will be bringing more sessions, more research oriented with Vaidya Manoj in future, you know, bringing more research behind Ayurveda. That's what we really want to tell the world is that, there's a science and research behind all the therapies that we bring on board. With that, I'd like to thank you so much and have a great Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.